we have this seminar 8 during the lecture we discussed about global value chains, right? So global value chains, it's a relatively new field of study, okay? Which researchers gave more emphasis on studying this topic starting from 1990s, okay? Why is it so important in this global competitive world? So now let me ask you some questions and let's discuss certain things that we discussed during the lecture. Number one, what is supply chain?
From the raw material to the customer.
So we are saying that raw material, yes, the chain of supply that starts from raw material to the end customer. Yeah? But within this process, there is a chain of supply, yes? Warehousing, or inventory management, manufacturing, production, yes? Delivery, logistics, yes? And retailers, where our customers can buy those goods, okay? And according to the definition that we gave, it's cumulative network, right, of people. When we say cumulative network of people, what do we mean?
Connection.
Within this chain, hundreds, maybe thousands of people are actively communicating with one another in order to fulfill this chain of supply. And these entities, okay, they are networking. And we said there is network of cumulative network of information, which means it all is, process is through information flow. Okay? So this is chain of that supply chain. Okay, good. And can you explain me the difference between simple supply chain and complex supply chain?
Complex like modern supply chain?
No. Yeah, modern supply chain can be complex and it can be simple too. For example, in Uzbekistan, we have the tradition of that bread making, yes? Our bakers, they make those, lepioshka. So does it have complex supply chain or simple? It's very simple, right? Because what the ingredients needed is only flour and yeast.
You mean the combination of...
So the supply is very simple. One, right, tire of supply. They buy those flour from the market or it's supplied and they make bread and sell in the market. Very simple. But in order to produce a car, that supply is very complex. Okay? Because there are tires of suppliers, which means our supplier has suppliers. And those suppliers, they have their own suppliers. This is simple, straightforward, and this one is complex. Our suppliers have suppliers. Their suppliers have suppliers. Okay? So, if you consider the suppliers of car manufacturers, it's much more complex than this one. Okay? So this is complex supply chain and simple supply chain. It's clear. Good. And who can explain me the difference between upstream and downstream supply chains?
Upstream chain, they will adding value. Adding like a resource in the first stage, they will, in every stage it will be more expensive. After in downstream, they will start by decrease their costs, they will like by sales or by the using the cost, their value will be more decreased.
Okay. So if you consider raw material as cotton, yes, cotton, which is where we pick up that cotton from the fields. When it's picked up from the fields, that has the lowest value, yes, and the quality. It's not touched yet. But it goes through processing, yes, where value is added and that cotton gets protected. And it gets the highest value and perfection when it's made ready close. Yes? And the value will be highest offered in the market. That raw material will have the highest value. So therefore it's upstream. Okay. Then after that one, it will experience downstream. The quality will be lower and price will be going down because it's not second hand. Alright? And if it's disposable, then we will recycle it. Good. So now, and I said there are certain things that does not have the downstream process. Pardon? Bread? No, it has. Why? For example, if you go to a supermarket today and you find, that bread sold, okay? Which, they made it available 1 week ago, will you buy it? Or yesterday? You would prefer to buy the fresh one. The next day, no one would like to buy it, unless there is no option. But the following, after 2 days, no one will buy it even though there is no option. Yes, okay? So we have certain goods, with over time that the value goes up and up and up. Yes? So those paintings, famous ones, time is, the price will go up with the time. Alright? All of them. Historical artifacts, they're all good, okay? Those are exceptions regarding this one. So who can explain me the difference between simple supply chain and modern supply chain? Simple supply chain is traditional supply chain and modern supply chain.
When you produce this traditional supply chain, modern supply chain involves marketing, developing human resource, because in order to sell more products, we work on a lot of factors, sections. Traditional, when we buy raw materials, produce and sell, and don't give our hands. Modern is when we work on some parts of it which is related to each other.
Okay. So why do we call it traditional?
It comes from ages and everybody did it.
Okay.
Modern,
So which means that it's traditional because it has been practiced for centuries. Okay. Once humanity, people, they started producing certain things, whether it's manually or in other ways, okay? Still, they were applying same supply chain. They were getting those, raw materials, manually producing it, and they were delivering and selling in the market. It's traditional. So now we are not doing it manually, but using technology, and we are not, instead of delivery, instead of donkeys and horses, we are using trucks and cars, but still, process is the same. Okay, so therefore it's traditional. Good. Regarding modern supply chain, as she explained, now we have something different that hasn't been practiced in the past, yes? So now in modern supply chain, during the time of the manufacturing, delivery, or sales, we have marketing, research and development, operations, or research in sales, it's all practice. Question. Why this kind of modern style of supply chain hasn't been practiced in the past?
Because of technology.
competitive, first thing is competitive. It was not a lot of competitive in past, nowadays was so developing, and that's why. Second reason is when we do work on it, we have value chain. It means we will add value and it will be on high price.
Okay. Yes, it's because of competition. In the past, all manufacturers, mainly they were monopolists, okay? For which they had no need extra expenses for development and marketing, okay? But now, if they don't work on research and development and do proper marketing, they are not able to survive in the market. Competition is so hard, okay? So which means whether we want or not, in order to do our business in the market, we have to apply these things, which hasn't been available in the past. Okay, good. Real value and perceived value of product.
Real value is really how much I discuss this product. Perceived value is like how respectable is this brand and how the marketers' efforts to make this brand more.
How customers feel to pay for it.
Yes.
It means choose the same things, same options, like brand, strong brand, strong something, and the customers will to pay more. That's for brand.
Okay, good. So everything has its real value. Yes, everything. Anything produced has real value because we have to incur some cost for that. So therefore, that has real value. For example, if you go to the market, you can find one good which costs $10. Okay? But people go and they see that good, okay? The cost is $10, which means they have to make it available at least $11 in the market, right? Okay? But people think it does not worth $10. People thinking, okay? So they may say, you know, I'm not willing to pay more than $5 for this good. It does not worth it. Thinking. But actually the cost is much higher. It's also like perceived value. Okay? For example, you know, today we have those trendy jeans, right? With all of those poles. Which is very trendy and very expensive. And people in Tashkent, in the capital city, they prefer buying it because it's trendy in the city, right? So for that one, people living in Tashkent, they are very happy to pay a high price. But if you go to a very rural village wearing that type of jeans, okay, they will be looking at you very strange. I think this guy is very poor. He doesn't have any, you know, he doesn't even have the proper jeans. Right? In a very rural area, because they have, it used to be, you know, so they would feel like this. So now, for you in the city, that perceived value, because you know it's trendy, you are very happy to pay 200,000-300,000 soons. But in the village, if you offer your jeans for half price, they would say, I will not buy these jeans even for 1 soon. It's their perceived value on that good. Okay? Good. Or we have, you know, that kind of brand shoes like Nike, yes. Nike. If you go to the market today, and if you see that the price is given 100,000 soon, I believe you will not buy it.
Yeah, because it's not
Okay?
real money.
You will not buy it. Why? You believe that minimum the price should be 300,000 soon. Minimum. If it's 100,000 soon, you know, it must be most probably fake. Even though it's original. It must be fake. So which means that those multinationals like Nike, they were able to develop that type of perception on us, so which means we are giving higher value for their goods. So question, how were they able to influence on our minds?
Marketing.
Marketing, branding,
Through marketing, through branding, you know.
advertisement, different types of advertisement.
Also,
But you know, marketing and whatever advertising does not help you unless you produce good product. Yes? Through research and development, they are using the best quality leather, okay, whatever goods, raw materials needed for making. And designs are very nice, okay? And of course, they are using all of those, you know, very famous entertainers to advertise it, whom we like, and we try to buy it. Okay? Good. So now, which means that through those modern technologies, they were able to influence on us this ultimate level of influence. Okay? So now we have perceived value regarding those shoes. Good. What about supply chain and value chain? Supply chain we already know, but there is value chain too. What is value chain?
When during production the company adds additional value.
Mm-hmm. So, alright, additional value. So this is supply chain, right? And they are saying it's value chain too. Which means today, in order to become more competitive in the market, okay, those successful businesses, they are able to add value in each process. Which means that they are trying to add value in each process. If you consider that warehousing or inventory management, is it important? Inventory management. It's very important in order to keep those, raw materials in the best, highest quality. Okay? If you consider fruits, let's farmer, which does warehousing, okay? There, if you consider two farmers, there is one farmer and there is another farmer. One farmer does not have that kind of, warehouse. The other one is, they have. The ones who doesn't have, what will he do after the harvest of his fruits? He will make his fruits immediately available in the market. Because he doesn't have a space to keep it fresh. Right? Which means that the margin, that revenue he is getting will be the lowest. But the one who has that warehousing facility where he or she is able to control the temperature in the room, which is very suitable to keep those apples and pears very fresh, he can keep those apples very original fresh condition for months, 2-3 months. If time passes, the prices of fruits increases. Do you understand? Same apple, but the value is different. So which means farmer, through using advanced for example way of those ways, he is adding value to the same fruit. It's just here. But main value added is going to happen in production process. You may have two types of t-shirts as available, for which labor cost is same, color is same, but one has a little different design that people like it, for which people are willing to pay more. Okay? Here they try to develop new designs, or through that one people are paying more, or using certain type of technology or more efficient raw materials, they're able to reduce cost. If the cost is reduced, still the market value is same, but the revenue is higher, adding value. Regarding that delivery services, for example, regarding pizza delivery, yes? If delivery is very quick and very nice, then we are willing to pay higher price. Or we will be willing to buy more and more. Good? And supply chain and value chain is, like inverse related. Why? Supply chain is straightforward, okay? From raw materials, finished goods, and it is supplied to the end consumer. While in value chain, how do they add value? Because they study customers, okay? They study customers. They know in order to, the customers will be willing to pay higher price for apples in that time. Or they will be studying customers what kind of design they may like in terms of clothing. So they will be planning what kind of thing should we do. And they will innovate. And then they will produce. And then they will supply. Okay? So therefore it is like this. We are now, value can be added if we know our customers. Okay? Then we are trying to add value through that one.
Good. Sorry, sir. Delivery and distribution and logistics are the same things?
Yes, yes. Yes.
Yes.
Delivery, we can say even those that motorbike delivery. Logistics is include that huge those delivery.
About distribution and logistics.
Logistics is delivery of goods. It can be distributing those goods too. Yes, of course. Okay, and we said that there are primary and supporting activities of value chain. Yes? So now here, inbound logistics, which is before manufacturing process, inventory management, those warehousing, and outbound logistics after manufacturing process. Okay, the orders and delivery, and marketing and services. These are all in this process. We try to add value. Okay. So the question is here: what's the how is these supporting activities important to make it efficient? Human resources. Does it play any role?
Yes,
Yes.
surely. Best
Professionals.
professionals.
Find professionals.
Any process of value chain cannot be efficiently practiced unless they have professionals here, right? Those reliable workers. Good. What about technology? Does it have anything to do with value chain?
Yes, it's important because it provides quality.
It improves quality.
Less mistakes.
Time consuming.
Yeah, it reduces errors in terms of less time, okay, saving time, or it reduces cost of production. Okay, that way we are trying to add value. Good.
What about handmade products?
Huh?
What about handmade products?
Regarding handmade products, the technology is no need. But handmade products are always expensive.
Yeah, because
For example, you can go to the market, especially in developed countries.
Like shoes.
If that sweater, one is fabric made in one fabric in a plant, okay, fabric made, the price is $100. But if it's handmade, the price is minimum 4 or 5 times more expensive.
why? Why?
Because it's handmade.
It's special because it's in one.
But the quality is better as in the fabric.
Because it's handmade, I don't know actually, but it's because handmade it's like this.
It doesn't work in Uzbekistan.
For example, that handmade carpets are much more expensive than the one that's made in one manufacturing sector.
It takes too much time, maybe carpet.
Yes. Maybe the quality is better in the one which was produced in one company. Okay. But anyway, it's handmade. Strategy.
It is cost study.
All multinational companies, okay, all multinational, very successful ones. They are successful because they were able to develop very good strategies. Okay? Which market should we approach? To which market should we enter? So if we enter to one market, how much revenue are we expecting in first year, in the second year, at the third year, after 5 years, should we expect? So now very nice strategy in advanced planning in order to avoid any future problems, okay? Potential problem. Good thing. How about research and development?
Learning.
Innovation.
In today's globalized world, it's very important. Okay, very important. Let me give you one example. For example, pharmaceutical industries, okay? Pharmaceutical industries. All research and development is done in that industry, okay? Mainly pharmaceuticals, where they produce some kind of medical drugs which we consume, yeah? Now if you go to drugstore, if you want to buy aspirin or some other type of medication, the price is very, very cheap, yes? Very cheap. And we know that there are certain type of medications which are produced for treating certain type of disease, made in Germany or made in France or made in the US, but the price is thousands of dollars. Exactly same size. Cost of production has no difference, okay? Same cost of production, almost. But the price difference is so huge. Why? Because of research and development. For example, on average, to make one medication successful in the market, because you have to produce it, because people consume it, right? And it should be useful. To make it successful in the market and useful for people, on average it takes 15 years. Okay? To make it successful. Because it goes through all those, checkups or whatever, after made, produced. Good. And within this, on average, 15 years, to make it successful, they have to use some capital, right? For do that research. And usually it costs for them $5 billion. On average. 15 years, $5 billion. So now, if you hear that certain German made, that the medication is $10,000 cost, if you hear, that it's really worth it. Why? In order to produce one very big institution, they were working 15 years and they spent this much money. Okay? And they will be given, because those agencies, they give them, if I'm not mistaken, it was 11 or 12 years of patent. Which means that those pharmaceutical industry which were able to develop this medication, they have 11 years. So which means that within this 11, no one is in the world is able to produce it. Producing it, illegal. Because once it's produced, all other pharmaceuticals, they can replicate it easily. Knowing the ingredients, no problem. Contents. But it's illegal. Which means those agencies, they give a chance for them within this 11 years by charging those high prices to cover the costs and get extra profits for making that research. Okay? So then after 11 years, then the price will go down. Alright? So now, because of this kind of practices, countries like US or European countries, Germany, France, Korea, Japan, India, for example, because they are able to produce certain type of medications, they are making millions or billions of dollars revenue. Not even 1 cent that real cost, but actual that selling price is thousands of dollars. They are able to add that much value for those medications. Okay? It's true research and development. Good. And what is global value chain?
Trading and purchasing across the countries.
Value chain, same value chain, but in that value chain now, that value chain includes
This person knows the world.
multiple countries. Okay? In order to make this final good ready, those supply chains, again, value chain is practiced through the world. Using better quality goods from Germany, right? of better leather from Australia, try to add value, global value chain. Okay. Now please watch a very short video and pay attention to all the details I will ask.
An average car has thousands of parts produced by hundreds of suppliers from dozens of countries. What makes this possible is not only the international trading system, but also international supply chains. Over the years, the costs of transport and communication have fallen, making it possible for companies to split up their production lines into different production facilities. Now, more and more, each stage of production occurs not just in a separate factory, but in an entirely different country. For example, a car might have an engine made in Germany, a wiring harness from Tunisia, an exhaust filter system from South Africa, and finally, be assembled in Mexico. This type of production is a major reason why global trade has grown so fast. The volume of world trade today is 27 times larger than it was in 1950. Supply chains can allow poor countries to start manufacturing goods for the global market. By locating activities in countries where lower costs of living mean labor costs are also low, or in countries where raw materials are located, the total cost of production can be reduced. This helps companies create new or better products without continually raising the final price paid by consumers. Yet, while there are many benefits to supply chains, there are also some risks. If a country that's part of the supply chain experiences a natural disaster, for example, then a delay in production in that country affects activities further down the supply chain. This affects not only the production of the final product, but also the intermediate goods as well. In 2011, floods in Thailand affected the final production of goods around the world, ranging from electronic goods to cars and shoes. Also, when countries do not coordinate their regulatory policies, that is, the rules that help ensure health and safety, supply chains can be affected. For example, a chemical company that imports ingredients for aspirin and acetaminophen into the United States must comply with similar or overlapping regulations from 5 different agencies. The agencies sometimes fail to communicate among themselves, and this delays the shipment of products. To counter this, governments and corporations are working to smooth out some of those kinks in the supply chain, to minimize red tape while still protecting health and safety. By taking a closer look at how supply chains operate, policies can be better designed to help both producers and consumers. Another shortcoming is that rules of existing trading agreements between countries usually don't mesh well with supply chain trade. In order to help correct this, trade officials should do more to think supply chain when designing trade agreements, so the rules in these agreements can help supply chains work better in the future.
Okay. So now, according to the video, all right, why do multinational companies, okay, they are trying to split their production lines globally? Cost of production, right? It's one reason. Why then, those multinational, they were not doing it in the past? They could do it.
Various.
One reason, because of logistics, transportation, okay? One main reason for splitting their production lines now is, supply of the transportation system is very perfectly established, okay? Another factor is communication. Where, those multinational parent has 24 hours, control power over its affiliates, okay? So now they can control their affiliates 24/7. So those are very important factors that makes, all multinationals to practice it more and more. Good. And how does global supply chain increase the value of international trade? According to the statistics? Compared to the 1950s, it's now 27 times larger in terms of the volume of trade. Yes. And how was it possible to? And what were the factors that increased it by that much? One factor is human, population, right? Now, population is growing, more, the transactions are happening, right? But population did not increase by 27 times, yes? Not even 10 times. Less than 5 times compared to those 50s. And they're explaining it through supply chain. How? Okay. Good. Let's consider German car manufacturing. Okay. Germans are today manufacturing very nice cars, yes, and they have been producing those cars for almost 100 years. That 100 years ago, okay, if they started producing that time, they were producing those cars in Germany, and it was purely German car. All parts, almost entire car was made in Germany. All right, everything was made in there. But today, you will not be able to find even a single German car, most probably, which 50% is pure German made. Which means in the past, they were producing and thus making available to international market, yes? One transaction. But today, it's very different. Tires come from some other country, which means trade is happening between these two entities, right? While these tire manufacturers, they are buying those rubber from China. Trade. And some other part of tire comes from somewhere else. And regarding other parts, again, it is supply, which means that transactions, okay, that trade between the countries now, volume has been increasing mainly because of this. Okay? Because of this. How does global supply chain affect on developing countries? According to the video. Is it positive or negative? Positive. Why is it positive? Right. In the past, those developing and that third world countries, they were very passive. Okay? But now today they are very active. And how did they become so active?
Like global value chain. You have some production, some they are part of production in these developing countries.
Mainly because of developed countries.
Because the cheap labor.
Okay. Now supply chain is working very well. They know that in those developing countries, the raw materials are available, or certain things labor is available. So now they're trying to use it, and it's very beneficial for those developing countries too. Okay. What are the risks of global supply chain? Some risks.
International disaster.
Does supply chain so it affects negatively on supply chain? Yes? Yes. So they are giving the example of Thailand, yes, and that flooding issue in 2011, because in Thailand, they are producing lots of parts of certain goods for different manufacturers in other countries, because in that period they were not able to supply those parts. Those goods were not be able to produce, made the finished product. And it really caused negative effect on that trade, okay, supply chain. And at the end of the video, they have mentioned about trade agreements. Yes? They are saying that trade officials, before signing trade agreements between countries, those economic integration, they have to consider supply chain as well. Why? Which means that if we want sign, for example, Uzbekistan wants to sign customs union with Kazakhstan, our trade officials should consider as one of the main important factors supply chain. Why is it so important? According to customs union, there is no tariff between the countries, and our external tariffs are same. Let's suppose we have car manufacturing industry, yes, which means that most of the parts, they come from outside. But if we sign trade agreement with Kazakhstan, we have to make our tariffs same. Let's suppose these, for this one we don't impose tariffs. Because Kazakhstan, they impose it, we also have to impose tariffs. Which means the price of our materials will go up, right? So as a result, what will happen? At home, we will be practicing more and more trade diversion cases. Trade diversion, which we have already learned, yes? Because now we have cheaper supplier, more efficient, but we are buying maybe from Kazakhstan. Another thing, because of this effect, now supply chain is negatively affected. All right? They are not, able to supply it more efficiently. So therefore, they are considering, in order to make it better integration, this should be considered too. Okay, good. All right. So this is supply chain management. Now you have to read it. And you know that supply chain management is very important to reach the highest efficiency level and get the highest profit. Okay. So now we have an exercise, all right, which is very simple math that we have to do. Okay. That's school mathematics that you used to do. Level 6 school math. Okay? But that one has very important implication in real life, in economics. Okay? I know that you have already studied that profit maximization in your math class, right? Was it in exploring economics? Okay.
Also math.
In mathematics too, maybe. All right. So now we'll do another exercise regarding profit maximization. Okay? So now, this is exercise that we have to solve. Okay? Please read it. Excuse me. This is dollar sign, okay? Type of mistake. Not percentage, but dollar sign. Okay. So now we have a manufacturer, right? Producer, porter. And he makes two types of goods, which is he makes cups and plates. So now we know, according to given statistics, he has limited time, 20 hours, and he has limited natural resources or raw materials, 250 kilograms of clay. And we have another data given to know how much time is needed to make cups and how much time is needed to make plates. And how much raw materials are needed to make cups and how much raw materials are needed to make plates. And also we know that how much profit can be gained by production one cup and by production one plate. So let's write those details in here. In order to produce one cup, regarding time, how much time does Porter spend to produce one cup? 6 minutes. In order to produce one plate, 3 minutes. And maximum available time is 20 hours. Okay. What about raw materials? In order to produce one cup, the porter needs 0.75 kilogram of clay. Yes. In order to produce one plate, 1 kilogram of clay. And total available clay is 250 kilograms. And another data that we know that if we produce one cup and sell it in the market, the profit that we can get is $2 profit. Regarding plate, if we sell one plate, the profit that we can get is $1.50. Okay? This is given for us. So which is very important for supply chain manager. Okay? So after getting all of these results, it's supply chain manager's work, okay, to develop all important modules and functions in order to get maximum profit. So now we are asked, how many cups and how many plates should that porter produce in order to maximize his profit? Yes? Okay. So number one, if porter wants to maximize his profit, he should know about his profit maximization function. Yes? Profit maximization function. Which is simple to find, yes? So the profit maximum profit. So the porter, he has to produce certain number of cups and certain number of plates, X, Y. And porter knows that for each produced cup he can gain $2 of revenue and $1.50 from each plate. So then it will be profit maximization function of porter. Right? Very simple. Okay. So now we are asked to find this optimal number of cups and optimal number of plates to be produced to get the maximum profit. Okay. Before we do that one, we have some other things to do first. Okay. Here. Construct time and resource constraint functions. Because time is limited and resources are limited, we have to develop those functions. So, where to, in order to produce one cup, certain type of number of cups, for each we spend 6 minutes. For production of plates, we spend 3 minutes. So if that time spent inefficiently, okay, then it will be less than 20 hours. Not proper management of time. If it's managed properly and in the most efficient, then it will be equal. Yeah, we will convert it, okay? Because it's in minutes, this one is also in minutes, we have to convert it into minutes. Which means 20 hours is equal to 1,200 minutes. Yes? 1,200 minutes. Okay, good. This is time constraint function for time constraint function. And now we have to do for raw materials constraint function, where in order to produce each unit, we have to spend 0.75 kilogram of clay and 1 kilogram of clay for making clay. If it's not efficiently produced, it will be somehow less from 250 kilograms. Its maximum efficiency gain, it will be equal. Okay, good. So these are two functions we developed. Good. So if you have this question in the exam, it will be in similar time. We have to do step by step. Okay, good. Now, graphically plot time and resource constraint functions with two functions, and identify solution space. Solution space. So, what does Porter want? Maximum profit. Maximum profit is achieved when we use our available time and raw materials in the most efficient way, right? In other words, 6x plus 3y is equal to 1200. And now we will plot this time constraint in the graph. What's the easiest way of finding?
The white line.
If we don't spend any time for production of cups, yes, we are able to produce how many plates?
400.
400. In other words, graphically, 0 or 100. Yeah? If we don't spend any time for production of plates, we are able to produce 200 cups. In other words, graphically 200 to 0. Okay? So now, this horizontal line represents the number of cups, vertical line represents the number of plates. If we don't produce any cups, we are able to produce 400 plates. If we don't produce any plates, we are able to produce 200 cups. Is it linear function?
Yes.
Yes, it's linear function, so we will draw this straight line. So this is time constraint, right? Allocation of time can be within this frame. Good. Second, if we plot raw material constraint, yes, where 0.75 x plus y equal to 250. If we don't spend or if we don't produce any cups using that available clay, we are able to produce 250 plates. 0 to 250. If we don't produce any plates, we are able to produce how many cups? If you use your calculators, 250 divided by 0.75 will give you 333. Yes, 0.33. 333.33, 0. Good. Let's wrap it again. If we don't produce cups, we are able to produce 250 plates. If we don't produce plates, we are able to produce 333.33 cups. Because it's linear functions. Where is the solution space in this graph? Space.
From 200 to 200 section.
Solution space here is for supply chain manager. Supply chain manager can make decisions within this space. Okay? If supply manager makes the worst type of decision, worst type, he will make a decision to produce nothing. Okay? If he makes a decision, we may get maximum profit blindly making that, So we have to produce 100 plates and 100 cups. Is Potter able to get maximum profit? No. So each dot here, it represents some solution for that problem. But now we are interested about the most efficient solution, which will give us maximum profit. In this case, which point will give us maximum profit? This intersection, right? Intersection will give us that maximum profit. Okay. Good. So now, find the optimal solution, which means optimal solution is here. We have certain number of cups should be produced, and certain number of plates should be produced, which will give us that optimal solution, which give us that maximum profit. Okay? Can you find it?
120 of cups and 160.
So how do we solve it? We have to solve these two functions simultaneously, right? So if you solve it, you can easily find, it's very simple math, right? The number of cups should be produced 120. And the number of plates 160. Which means that this point represents plate 160 and this one 120. Optimal point, okay? Can we find maximum profit? We have already this maximum profit function, right? Once we place it, P max is equal to $2 from each 120 cups plus $1.50 from each 160 plates. And it's equal to 480. Maximum profit. So in here, you can try. You choose any point in this space, okay? And if you calculate the maximum profit, it will be less than 480. Even though it's very simple math, okay? It has very broad meaning. Supply chain managers, in order to get the most efficient solution, they have to do all of these decisions. Okay? But for those multinational companies, it's not that simple. Okay? Because they don't have only two constraints. They work with hundreds of thousands of constraints, functions, which means that they have to use matrix. So many columns and so many rows, which is impossible to do it manually. They have to do it using those computers, okay? Computers. Any questions? No questions? Okay, good. So now, next, discussion 7. This one you may have as essay type question. Okay? Essay type question. Upgradation processes of global value chain. We said, manufacturers, producers, they are able to add certain value, okay, by upgrading the process of manufacturing. First one is process upgrading. So what does it mean?
It's using technology, better technology in order to improve quality of production
Mm-hmm.
to get to someone.
Mm-hmm. Good. Or in other words, if we were producing manually, if we replace that manual work with a technology, we are more efficient producers, right? Okay? Or if we have certain type of technology which is old enough, if we replace it with new, more efficient technology, it's considered as process upgrading. Does it add value? It increases efficiency, which means it adds value. Okay? Good technology. What about product upgrading?
Using good quality things to
Materials.
produce
Using good quality materials, right? Or reducing human error, okay, during the production process and other things. What kind of example did I give during the lecture? Optical frames, yeah? Optical frames. I said, those optical frame producers, they used to, use those just simple plastic in order to produce those frames, okay? Then they were able to develop, better, high-quality plastic, which is TR90. Okay. Simple one, just ordinary one, and there is TR90. The price is very different. This one is 10,000 soon, while people are very happy to pay for this one 50,000 soon, 5 times more. Are we able to add value? Yes. Okay? And I said that, today they are making even better plastic, which is Ultem, okay? Ultem, for which our consumers are very happy to pay 100,000 soon. This is Ultem. It does not fade away quickly, okay? And plus, it does not cause any, allergy to the skin. So therefore, people, pay high prices for this. Upgrading the product upgrading. Okay. Next one, functional upgrading. What was it?
They add some features.
What kind of features? Function.
New functions.
And what are those functions?
It was example about suits.
OEM, if one manufacturer, okay, he upgrades its function, so it means that from moving from original equipment manufacturing to original design manufacturing. I give the example of that suit making in Namagan, yes, because they have, many years of experience already. They are very good at making it, okay? And now, that factory in Namagan, they are producing suits for Turkish suit makers, which means they are giving the orders. They are asking to design, they're giving the design. So now we need 1,000 of pieces, produced here. Where is origin of it? Namagan, Uzbekistan, okay? OEM. And they are supplying it using their, labor and service. And it's, that all the brand is made there, and it's again sold for us as Turkish brand. But the origin is Uzbekistan. It's OEM. How can this, suit maker upgrade its function? This experience of making it, okay, they're making different designs over years, they gain experience. Which means that if they do a bit, more thinking, they will be able to develop their own design. All right? Here, they were selling only their service. Yes? But now, if they develop their design, which is now original design manufacturer, they are not only selling their design, but so only service, but now they are also selling their design. Are they able to add value?
Yes.
For design, they will be charging more, okay, because it's their design. All right, good. And another, if they want to, further upgrade the function, they may, consider own brand manufacturing. Own brand. So now, if they really know that the designs that they are producing is really liked by people, then they can make it their own design. Oh, brand. Uzbek brand. Where now they are supplying to the leading firm, right? But now, if it is OBM, original brand manufacturing, are we supplying for them? No. We will be supplying directly to retailers and consumers, okay? Which means that with OBM, we will get the high. So Adidas and many other type of apparel brands, they are even one step further of OBM. Why? They are not only supplying those shoes, but they have their own shops. Adidas shops, Nike shops, yes, even further. Functional upgrading. Good. And what about intersectoral upgrading, the last one?
Changing sector from one to another, like Honda, from motorcycle business to the car production.
Okay. So what do you think? If I change my pharmaceutical business, okay, pharmaceutical business, drug production, into, for example, shoe production business,
No.
is it considered as intersectoral upgrading?
It means when we have when we produce one thing and we improve it to another, which we can use this raw materials.
Causing should be causing
Like car and motorbike technology.
One industry.
Types of technology.
So intersectoral, which means that with the gained knowledge, okay, while producing this motorcycle, which has those engines, those tires, those metals, okay, with this gained knowledge, we are then upgrading our infrastructure and producing cars. Okay? This one, from pharmaceutical to shoemaking, it has nothing to do with intersectoral upgrading, okay? For example, our Artel, most probably they started producing TVs, which have lots of electronic parts, yes? Later on, they started producing smartphones, yes? Which means they gained some experience from TV production, which has screen and all of those stuff, buttons. Or from refrigerator production, they started producing air conditioners, okay? With gained experience. It's intersectional. So if you have this question, you have to write a nice story.
Like Honda story.
If you wish. Okay, good. Producer-driven global value chain and producer-driven global value chain. Those two. Okay. Producer-driven. Buyer-driven. Who can explain it?
Buyer-driven, the customer is a decision maker.
Okay. Customer is a decision maker. In producer-driven,
Supply.
producer is a decision maker. Good explanation.
Buyer, if the customer are dissatisfied with some product,
Uh-huh.
then the producers, they think about maybe changing some
Designs.
design.
Okay. Good. Yeah, that's one explanation. Okay. So now we said that in producer-driven global supply chain, entry barrier for this business is high. But in buyer-driven, it is low. High regarding car manufacturing, it's producer-driven global value chain, car manufacturing. Why? Can any country, we have more than 200 countries and territories today in the world, right? And out of them, there are a number of countries, they are able to produce cars, yes? Why not all of them are able to produce? Because of that, they don't have capital and technologies to do it, okay? Which means barriers are very high. Can you find any country in the world, where they are not producing clothes? No. Why? Because entry barrier is very low. Okay? So then, we discussed that, regarding producer-driven, that in Latin American countries, okay, in Latin America, they were practicing mainly the producer-driven global value chain, while in Southeast Asian countries, those Asian tigers, okay, they were mainly practicing buyer-driven global value chain. And what was the main reason for them practicing producer-driven? Because in those 50s, 60s, Latin American countries, they were importing all those goods from developed countries. Okay? We know from mercantilistic view that if we are importers, we are losers. Okay? So which means not to be loser, at least we must be able to substitute those goods locally. So which means there was a policy like, those import, substitution, industrialization. So now, those local Latin American countries, they try, they try to produce certain things, producers, so which can be substituted, those import goods. And all multinationals which are entering to Latin America, main goal was to produce certain goods which can substitute import goods. It was producers' initiative. And here, who are the main players here? Multinational companies, okay? Which used to establish this one. In Southeast Asian countries, okay? Southeast Asian countries, of course, they were also doing that import substitution, no doubt. All countries, okay? But they were doing, in addition, one step ahead, export-oriented industrialization, which means that they were able to develop, certain type of process where they were able to have effect on those buyers, which means that main players here is retailers. So now there is very high demand for their goods. Mainly those low for apparel, those shoemaking, those stuff, okay, and those retailers, which means that now they are producing for those buyers, So Lord, if you consider which group of countries over the years, according to the experience that we have, are more successful, Latin America or East Asia? Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia, because they are buyer-driven, practicing buyer-driven global value chain. Okay, good. And another, essay type question you may have is regarding governance forms of global value chain. If you search from the internet, okay, lots of information is available, and you most probably will find one graph, okay, which you can make some readings. It's a bit confusing, but still, if you try, you will understand. But now, let's discuss it in a simple way, okay? First one of governance form is market chain. Now we are saying governance, which means control, yeah? Here we are considering that leading firm and the supplier. Which side has more governance? So leading firm, the governance level of leading firm or the supplier? Okay? Or the supplier, for example. In market chain, it's the very traditional way of market activities that we practice. Let's say if I go, let's say today to Chorsu, in order to buy potatoes, there are so many potatoes available from different sellers. Yeah. I can go check and I can pick up, it seems bad, it seems good, I would like to buy this one. I don't know that person who sells it at all. And he doesn't know me. I'm paying, buying and going. Next week, if I need more potatoes, I go, maybe I will buy from other person. Which means I'm not dependent on that person. And he is not dependent on me. Alright? Very independent. So governance level in here is very low. Or does not exist almost. Okay? Which means it's market activity. Just come and buy, bring and sell. Same thing. But in the second one, relation and a modular chain, here, leading firms, okay? Leading firms, it has governance, but it's very low. Where the supplier is more independent here. More independent. Because it is, supplying certain type of raw material which is unique. Which means that they are dependent on their supply. Alright? So now because of that one, because they are producing unique, they want to improve relationship with them. Okay? Therefore it's relation. Or it can be another case, it's unique, there are many buyers. Which means the supplier can make a choice to sell to anyone. Alright? Good. And third one, quasi-hierarchical or captive chains. It's vice versa. Where now suppliers are more dependent on their buying. Governance level is higher over them. If they don't buy their goods, it means that they will run out of business. Alright? So now they are more dependent on them. Governance level is higher over them. It can be, so this one, or it can be, there are lots of suppliers, okay, where they try to improve relationship in order to supply for them. And the last one is hierarchical chain, where governance level reaches the highest level. Which means this leading firm governs this, or it belongs to it. 100% belongs to it. Okay? Here, there is no relationship between supply and with the buyer. In the second one, so now they have unique features, so now they are more dependent on them, so governance level is very low. But now in here, they are more dependent on them, which means they have governance level over them. Okay? But in the last one, it belongs to them. Okay? I hope you had a chance to read workshop material. Yes? Okay. It was about Nike's corporate responsibility report. Yeah? So it was the reading that you had to do. Yeah? So let me ask questions. First question, list top 3 stickers and apparel manufacturing brands.
Adidas, Nike,
Yes, Adidas, Nike, Puma, which belong to Adidas now. Okay, and regarding apparel, There are many other, right, the Levi's and some other brands, which are all multinational corporations, yeah? Good. Yeah. What are some, according to the article, what are some arguments of major companies for being reluctant to disclose the information about their global value chains?
They are afraid that the manufacturing process will be disclosed to their rivals.
Okay. Which means
how they produce it.
good. So now, they're requesting, we would like to know where are your supply chain located, but those multinationals are very, reluctant to saying that they are going to, it's our business secret. Yeah. For example, Starbucks, they are, gaining bigger and bigger market share in the world because they offer a very nice taste coffee, right? And people are really satisfied with drinking that coffee because it tastes good. And if you ask them where is your supply chain, they would most probably say they will not tell that secret, business secret, because maybe it comes from some very rural area of Ethiopia, which they are producing best quality coffee. If they make it publicly available information, those rivals will be trying to buy same coffee. Okay? Good. And what are some reasons behind activists' request to disclose the global value chains of major companies?
They want to know how they are producing these products. They are in good, how can I say, in good appearance, and they are working in proper manner.
Maybe some of them think that there are some threats to labor, and they are not in fact in good condition. That's why they think that
Good. So, do activists have right to do it?
Yes.
To request? Yes, right. So Nike, Adidas, all of those, strong, those multinational brands, they became so strong and successful. It's because of people. Because people are buying those goods, and so they are becoming stronger and stronger, right? And activists they have rights because we are making you so strong. So now we have to know about where we are spending the money. For example, when Americans, in World War II, dropped 2 atom bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, okay? So many people died, yes? Not only died, over the years, they were suffering from that disease, certain type of disease. After that atomic bomb dropped, several American scientists who developed that atom bomb, they committed suicide. Why? Because they were thinking that because with my knowledge, I developed it, and because of my knowledge, okay, my contribution, because of this one, so many people died. Which is the same thing. So now, after the fourth question, that Mr. Lee Weinstein, right, he talks about he gives examples of endemic issues of Nike supply chain. Yes. What were those endemic issues?
Workers to work all the time.
Yes. So in those supply chains in remote Asian countries, yes, East Asian countries and other places, they are asking those people to work overtime, more than 60 hours a week.
Not to go in home.
And they are not allowing those workers during the workout to go to the toilets or drinking water. And plus they are verbally and physically abusing in some supply chains, yes? Okay, those factories. Which means that, so that those activists, why they are requesting it, we would like, well, because now we are buying it, yes, those goods, And we are giving those Nikes, those chains to those factories to produce more because we want. Whether, our higher demand causes any trouble for those people or not. Whether we are part of that abuse or not. Okay? In order to avoid those things, they are trying to do it. Good. Did Nike completely eradicate the endemic issues in its global value chains?
Then reduce, not completely.
They were not able, right? But still there is problem. But they are slowly trying to reduce those issues because it's publicly available. Alright? Good. So we are done. Now you can go. Just a second.